Hi, my name is Joan Kloth-Zanard. I have my master's in magna cum laude in marriage and family therapy. I'm certified in ADA. I have so many acronyms at the end of my name, I might as well put the alphabet there. I'm here because I strongly support HB 6401, which is an act recognizing parental alienation syndrome as a form of emotional abuse, and 6402 requiring mandated reporters to report suspected instances of alienation. I want to say that I think our 5 experts that were up here did a phenomenal job laying out what parental alienation is, what our obstacles are, and for that reason, I don't want to repeat what they've said. I will tell you, one of the things I am going to quickly address is that most of these parents have extreme PTSD, stress and anxiety from dealing with this, and they have a tendency to not present well. It's not that they're not good parents, but they are so triggered by going into court and by their ex-spouses and by not having their children that they get labeled. We got to stop that. We've heard the testimony about how important education is. I cannot stress that enough. We've heard testimony about how important our Constitution is. I cannot stress that enough. We also have an act establishing a task force to study the family court system. This is an absolute. It is so obvious when you have over 30 bills or proposed bills on family court problems, that says a lot right there that there's a family court issue. We also have, and that's also a Senate bill, 351. Now, we have something else imposing sanctions, 5876, against a parent who is in contempt of court orders related to custody and visitation. We find this consistently. The judges don't do anything about these contempts. 5 years ago, I came here and I spoke. I mentioned a program called 3 Strikes, You're Out. This program allows for 12 weeks and 3 chances for parents to comply. This eliminates this drag-on of these cases endlessly. That's part of the problem, the endless drag-on for years and years and years. But obviously, with a program like that, we're going to need people to be properly trained. We have grandparents' rights, that's just as important. That would be HB 5344. HB 6105 is a study to the factors of the court considering and making the determination of the best interests of a child. We don't even have a definition for BIC, which is what the nickname is, best interests of the child. It's kind of a willy-nilly thing. There's an act concerning the appointment of guardian ad litems, HB 5877. I'm sorry, guardian ad litem's last resort. They should not be attorneys. I said this 5 years ago and I'll say it again today. They are not properly educated and trained. Attorneys have a one-track mind. We also have, and one of the things I really want to get to before I have to get cut off is a statistic I noticed. When I go into courts and I watch and there is no attorney, these cases are handled expeditiously, fairly, and there's not all this bickering and fighting. When we have 1 attorney or 2 attorneys, these cases get dragged out endlessly. It's about the money. Or until one parent or both parents finally figure out what's going on, that they're just spending money. We have massive issues with that, and I don't know the solution. I obviously don't have enough time to discuss everything, but
sure, but if
the
you
one
just
thing,
summarize it,
yes,
great.
the one
Thank
thing
you.
that's what I'm going to do is, I believe in the Constitution. I believe in educating the courts, but we have to figure out how we're going to solve for this. Because we can have all of that in place, but if it's not being utilized and it's being abused, we have nothing. And I think that's where we're at with these parents. They are struggling with nothing. They have no answers. They have no rights. I have cases that are disgusting. Cases with a mother whose guardian ad litem gave the father custody, despite the father being convicted of stabbing the mother in the abdomen and then slicing up her labia and telling her, you will never have sex again. How does that happen? the same guardian ad litem was caught on the witness stand committing perjury, tampering with witnesses, and making medical diagnoses and treatment and admitting on the witness stand she has no medical degree to do this. She's got immunity. Bad girl. She's not going to get, we're not going to get any resolution if we continue to allow this. No immunity for anybody anymore. Enough.
Any questions? No? Yeah, I got some questions. We know that we've been complaining about the immunity guardians ad litems, and we know that if you're not an attorney, but still you got immunity. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, this whole thing with immunity is not only just as the attorneys, even if you're a psychologist, this immunity gives them the ability to do anything they want to do, no matter how illegal it is. When a guardian ad litem gets up on that stand and doesn't have to swear on the Bible, and they can say anything they want. So when I've got a guardian ad litem standing on a witness stand saying that she never talked to my client's therapist, and the therapists are sitting in the galley saying, what is she talking about? I sent her emails. How could she say she doesn't know who I am and that I didn't reach out to her? When I've got a guardian ad litem calling up witnesses and telling them, oh, you don't need to come to court today. You're not going to have to testify. Not telling the witness that if they don't show up, they could be imprisoned.
So what you're saying is the guardians ad litem, they make the decision who go and testify and who not.
Yep. We also have a change in the guardian ad litem laws that are a problem. They've now made it that only licensed attorneys and licensed therapists. I was a guardian ad litem. Conveniently, my renewal application never made it in. So when they made their new law that you had to be licensed, I couldn't be grandfathered in anymore.
So do you know about the training of guardians ad litems? How many hours?
It's 30 hours, and of those 30 hours, maybe there's a few hours spent on parental alienation. It's not efficient. It's not an efficient education program. It's lacking in so many areas.
And do you agree, or what can you say about guardians ad litems being in court, all day getting paid?
That is an absolutely abominable thing. I've got clients, these guardian ad litems are asking to get paid because the ex-spouse is making 1,000 phone calls to the guardian ad litem, and now the other spouse has to pay for it. I've got them where they're paying because they were called into court to testify in a DCF case, and the parents are having to pay for this. There should be a cap on what a guardian ad litem gets paid, and when we do that, I'm going to guarantee you, none of these attorneys who are in it for the money are going to stay on it. The only guardian ad litems we're going to have left are the ones who really care. Put a cap on it, and we won't have a problem with so many guardian ad litems.
I know that you run a program and you deal with a lot of parents. Do you think that some of those parents, they are not here today because they're afraid of retaliation?
Yes, and I meant to say that. I'm here of my own free will, but I'm going to tell you, I fear being retaliated against. I would pretty much say 80% of my clients fear retaliation. They will send in testimony, but they will not be here. That's why I told people if they didn't want to be on camera, sit on the sides, because they are terrified. I cannot tell, the stories I could tell you of the retaliation against these parents is deplorable. From having their whole entire homes, everything confiscated, stuck in a dumpster, and they can't even get on the property because a judge has issued a no trespassing order. They can't even get to their belongings. To being falsely arrested in the middle of the night for something that didn't even exist just because the other side wants to control the case. We have guardian ad litems that actually control our courts. You can't even get a grievance in on them because they control the panel. I run a nonprofit for victims. Let me take that back. Survivors of parental alienation. It's called PASI Intervention. We have 40 chapters around the world. I work with several other nonprofits. The number of stories I get a day is more than most therapists get in a month. It's that bad. It's a national epidemic, if not international.
I know that you're very involved, and I know that you know a lot of parents. Can you provide more example of cases that you feel the need for family court reform?
Yeah, there were quite a few. There was the one case I just told you about with the young woman who was stabbed and her ex-husband got the kids. Let me, 1 second, pull up a couple more because I have a few more. There's one with, I've got 2 cases where parents have been falsely accused of parental alienation. Now I can go talk to these parents and I can figure out if they're really an alienator or not. One of my cases is out in New Hampshire. 8 years DCF has been in this case. 8 years DCF has been called into this case. Not once in 8 years did they ever talk to the mother until 2 weeks ago. But because the father, as Steve Miller said, he's got those lovely 4 C's, charming, etc., etc., he can convince anybody that he's never harmed anybody, he's never abused his child, the mother and the child are lying. The child is now sitting in the mental hospital for the 3rd time in 15 months, during which time her father gave her a concussion and damaged her ear. But of course, father didn't do anything. He never harmed the child. Got another case here. The mother was on supervised visitation for 2.5 years. Well, the only reason this case ever moved forward was because the father finally came to court without an attorney. And that is when the judge could finally see that the father was the problem. And at that point, the judge gave the mother back the custody of the kid because she proved her case. But in the meantime, she's being still slam dunked. She's got to pay for a guardian ad litem who took her child from her for 2.5 years for no reason. And when the judge asked, why has this case not come back to me in 2.5 years? My client looked at the judge and said, Your Honor, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to ask the defendant and his attorney why they kept filing continuances. They filed continuance after continuance after continuance, so that it was 2.5 years before this woman was back in court. Worst part of this case, when they took that child from the mother, the father, nobody told the child what was going on. For 6 months, this child thought her mother was dead. That's not okay. This child is now flourishing in a mother's care. I have many more cases, but those 2 hit the jackpot right now.
You just mentioned supervised visitation. Can you say something about supervised visitation?
This is something that should be only used in extreme cases. I do understand when there's an allegation of abuse. I get it. But your DCF workers they're not trained properly. They can't even recognize parental alienation. There are other ways to also do this. Mark Roseman is here today. He's going to speak about his program called the Toby Center. It is a visitation center, and it's also a place to exchange the kids. But they don't do this in a sterile little room. I don't know if any of you have ever been to a DCF office.
Yeah.
Oh, they're disgusting. There's nothing there. There's no games. It's horrible. These centers and the way it should be done, which is also something Linda Gottlieb does with her Turning Points for Families, is you go out to the community. You go do things with these kids. Show them what a real parent is. Be a real parent. Sitting in a closed room is not being a real parent. So supervised should only be used in real extreme cases. I've done supervised visitation for parents who were mandated to it, and literally spent 13 hours of a day with them.
Okay, Joan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know that you've been out there for all these parents, so thank you. Thank you.